Good evening, all. Hope you're doing well, and hope you can hear me fine. We've got a bit of an interesting stream this evening. There has been a lot going on. We have, for your viewing pleasure, talk about the referral program, talk about the latest developments with Citizencon, and then something I'm actually really surprised that no one else has yet picked up. The financial report, the latest financial report from CIG, has some very interesting figures in it. And we'll go over that in just a little while here. First off, good evening to Socially, to Edison, to Sloth, Zavath, Citizen Ninja, Ray Louderbeck, Chippy, Jadomo, Stunner, sorry, apologies, mate. Good to see you all. And yeah, if I'm a little bit all over the place this evening, it's mainly because I decided, like a full-grown adult, that I was going to stay up all night and put this video out for you guys. And stay up until 10 o'clock in the morning to do it. Because I was actually really concerned and really convinced that other people would pick this news up. And they haven't. This is a very strange place for me. You and I know that I don't do news a lot. So to be here almost, kind of 24 or 12 hours after this video went out, with no uptick on it from any of the other content creators, especially people who like to jump on news and, do the whole end is nigh, oh my god sort of stuff. Actually, this is kind of big. So yeah, we'll get a ton of financial videos starting Monday, as my guess is Socially. Yep. Just remember, you saw it here first. I'm gonna dine out on this a little bit, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But first, my drink of choice this evening, unfortunately, I'm going all out. I'm going absolutely nuts. You will not believe what I'm drinking. It's not even alcohol. Diet Coke. It's been a busy week at work, and I was not expecting to be up all night. So, one Diet Coke coming up. Yeah. So surprised the bunch of content creators have not come out with their CEs going bankrupt yet because they don't understand financial reports at all. And maybe they do, right? Maybe this is why they haven't focused on this. But we all know that there are some content creators out there who will seize on anything even remotely bad. They will even stage bugs in their own video to make it seem like things are worse than they are. So I'm only assuming they are asleep at the wheel for this point. and we'll see. Citizen Ninja says, when assessing CIG's financial performance, it's worth noting they deliberately withhold sellable product for sale in future years to minimise the tax burden in the current year. Yeah, and there's some really interesting stuff. I was lucky. I had a very good mentor, a friend of mine who sadly is no longer with us, was a chartered accountant, and used to take me through this sort of stuff. So hopefully in a little bit of a better position to read it than your average layman. But yeah, breaking news first with badges, says Stunner. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's the news voice, right? So I'm just going to get into it. I wanted the stream to populate because basically this news, what I'm trying to do with the financial report is get out ahead of all the nonsense that happened. Hence the reason I was up all night. Because, look, I mean, here's this, and hopefully you guys feel the same, right? If you're going to criticize something, if something's gone wrong, then we absolutely criticize it, right? It makes sense that we go and we look at this is wrong, blah, 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 and all of that makes sense. The reason to me that I want to get out of this is because, it should be, if you're going to criticize something, criticize it for what it's done, not what it's not doing. So I will have a go at Star Citizen as and when I need to, but this is categorically not one of those moments, and I know people will do it anyway. So at least forewarned, forearmed, the more you know, the less you speculate. This hopefully is where we're going to go with this. So, that's where we are. Okay, so they can easily sell land claims, LTI CCUs, or easy ship variants, but they'll save it till later when they need an easy win. Absolutely. Like removing the propulsion diving, complaining that the jump gate isn't working. I mean, there is that too, do you know? Absolutely. And even some of the comments on the video up until now, I think it's up and around 400 views. Some of those videos tell me that there is a reason why gamers as a whole aren't listened to, and sometimes, aren't looked at as the paragon of knowing everything, because quite frankly they don't. We don't. Okay. Boo Diet Coke. I need to stay off the sugar-free stuff, and the Coke Zero, this was on a deal, basically, so Diet Coke it is. So I'm going to link the video to you guys, and we'll take a look and a listen and see what we think, but that's that. If you're up all night, at least you're productive. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think I should have been able to do that video much quicker. It's an 8 and a bit minute video, but that's where we are. I'm just going to keep a little bit of background noise in, just because I know there's a bit of a hum at the minute, so I'm going to try and tune that out. So, Pepsi is better socially. I will die on this hill. No, it isn't. The only thing I like from Pepsi more is the cherry Pepsi Max stuff. But, that being said, I just want to jump across now to this report, which is why I'm now bathed in white. Unfortunately, this is a PDF scan, so I can't do anything with this. I can't turn it into dark mode or anything like that. So you're just going to have to deal with the and the fact that, how pale I am has been revealed. Let's skip across and take a look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of skip across and I'm going to just shrink myself down so you can see a little bit more of what's actually going on here, especially seeing as that should have happened anyway. Let's grab everything and make myself just a little bit smaller. Let's go shrink into the corner. Whee! Here we go. Okay, that's enough. That's enough faffing for right now. That didn't help either, did it? Plonk. Okay, so that's not fixed. Okay, so this is the financial report for 2023. For those that don't know, you only get the financial report from like a year ago. 2 years ago. So legally, because they're in the UK and a UK limited company, Cloud Imperium UK must submit financial reports by a deadline. Okay, and effectively that's what's happened now. This was submitted a couple of days ago, so this stuff is hot off the press. It was shared on Spectrum. Edison shared it with me, so that's good news. Yeah, unfortunately, the stuff in brackets. Wow, you're doing badges. You're doing pretty well. Yeah, the stuff in brackets is a loss, not a win. So if I was doing well, whatever I did in 2022, I've annihilated in 2023, according to this. if this was even me. So, also, let me know how we're doing with buffering and stuff. I've tried the ultra low latency, so hopefully it'll be almost immediate, us talking. But I don't know if that's going to muck stuff up. So yeah, I tried adding sugar to Diet Coke when the vending machine at work ran out of regular Coke. I'd imagine that fizzed up like mad. Also, these things have like 15 grams, is it, of Coke if you get a proper one? Like, if I drink one now, my teeth just go furry. It's minging. But that being said, what you're seeing here, okay, is I'm aware my mouse isn't on the screen. The two columns to the right. The right-hand column is 2022. The left-hand column is 2023. I'm just gonna... That's really loud in my headset. Excuse me just a moment while I go and grab my Wavelink software and see if I can turn the mix down in my head. Apparently not. Can I turn this down? I'm gonna see if I can grab it very quickly. No, I can't. Okay, I'll have to play with that in a bit. So, what we're seeing here is in 2022, they made a profit of about 8.5 million. What we're seeing in 2023, and this is the bit why I'm kind of like, I was expecting people to be a little bit more on top of this, is an £8.4 million loss. So that's about $10.8 million, right? And I've got a video, I'm going to link it to you guys so you can go and watch it after the stream, especially if I end up early. But basically, the key thing about this report, and not the one that CIG send, I know the one that CIG sends has all this, you know, kind of wonderful, pretty graphics and all that sort of stuff. What this is, the important bit here, is that the first part of it is created by CIG. The rest of it is actually created by an independent auditor. Okay, so this is PricewaterhouseCoopers. They're a pretty significant company here in the UK. So this is them saying this is what we think. So this isn't CIG being able to hide stuff. They've been audited by PwC, and this is the auditors talking about it. And so they say here, this report give a true and a fair view of the state of the groups and of the company's affairs as at 31st of December 2023. So, you know, people can go, it's just CIG like being sneaky and hiding stuff. Well, they've been audited. So, you know, and PwC do the books for a lot of the big companies here in the UK. So you're not getting stuff past them, full stop, the end. Okay. So here's the interesting bit. And this is just for Cloud Imperium UK Limited. You and I think of CIG as one big company. The truth is they're not. They're a group of them. So this is specifically for, there are statements in here that are specifically for the company. You'll see at the top here, just on the second line down, it says group statement. So this is across all the groups. And that explains why on the next page, if you look... a little bit down, here we go. So this is the company statement for Cloud Imperium UK, not the group. And that's why that first, you know, kind of big couple of sentences under all the financial gumph says the company's loss for the year was 20 million. And that's because, obviously, this is working primarily on Squadron 42. So all the money is coming through other studios. And that's why the overall loss is 8 million. And you'd think... Basically, hi Kaiser, good to see you. And good evening to everyone I've not said hello to. I don't know if I said hello to you, Citizen Ninja, but good evening, and good evening to Kaiser Solo. Basically, what this is saying is the company is bizarrely in a healthy place. Okay, what this is actually saying here is if you dig into this, £8.3 million loss looks bad, but that's not actually what's going on. Okay, and no, this isn't me. Fiddling the figures or copium either. This is all that's happened in here is they've looked at the Manchester Goods Yard, the new studio that they have, and they've gone, okay, part of our contract is whenever we hand that back, what we've got to do is hand it back in a state that the landlord's happy with. right? And what they've done is they've massively overestimated how much of this is going to cost. This is like me and you living in a rental property and going, okay, well, I've got pets and I know the contract says that I need to get a clean to make, just in case the next tenants are allergic. And there was that stain on the carpet and we're probably going to have to replace the carpet and this, that, and the other, right? This is like the company level of that. So right where you and I might go, okay, that's going to be a couple £100, dollars, whatever. What they've done is they've estimated those costs at over $10 million. Okay, and I'm not just making this up. We can go down. What you'll see just here, okay, between the bits on the left and those two financial columns on the right, you'll see the center column just says notes. Okay, so where there's something that the auditors think it's useful people knowing, they'll add something on that notes column. So what you and I can do is we can go down and find that note. The numbers are down here, and basically, read off exactly what is going on. Oh, of course I will have done that. Oops. So let's go down, and I think down here it's note 20. Okay, here you go. This is it. Okay, this is the important bit. Kaiser, this is the bit that you were asking about. That figure there, on the first line of financials, the 10,512,150, they say this: the group has recognised a provision, for the UK head office, located in Manchester, requiring the property to be restored to its original Category A standard when the lease is terminated. Okay, the provision reflects the estimated present value, calculated at 10 and a bit million, as of 1st of January 2023, based on a bunch of factors. Okay, and then it says the significant uncertainty in this provision arises from estimation of cost, including effects of future inflation, and the provision reflects the current terms of the lease and could be subject to change if circumstances evolved. In other words, they've gone, to not be surprised, we'll set aside a massive whack. But they're not actually setting that money aside now. That money hasn't gone anywhere, right? It's like you and I going, okay, I got 10 grand. When I get rid of this place, I got 10 grand to find the new place. But we know that's not true. Because when we get rid of this place, what we need to do is we need to do that clean and we need to get the carpet replaced and all that sort of stuff. So me sitting here going, I've got 10 grand when I sell this place, I'm lying to myself. But by saying, okay, I'm going to need £1,000 for repairs, I'm not spending that right now. I'm just saying, in the future, I'm going to need to spend 10 grand. So actually, at the end of it all, I've got 9 grand left, right? But I might be able to get some carpet cheap. There might be a deal to do, I might be able to get some pet cleaning stuff myself. So that £1,000, I've just set that aside. So worst case scenario, that's what it's going to be. And that's what's happening here. Okay, so people are going to see the profit and loss. They'll get no further because this isn't the easiest thing to read, as you can tell. I'm struggling to kind of paraphrase it as we go through. But that's effectively what's happening here. So what we're then going to look at is we're going to look at the balance. What are Cloud Imperium games sat on? How much money have they got, and what is going on? Even at this rate, how much have they got left? Okay, so what we're going to look at once I've scrolled is this. Okay, this is the assets and liabilities. This is everything they've got money-wise, plus or minus, kind of everything they need to pay out. So if they stop trading right now, that. Okay. So, what we're looking at is on the left-hand side. Okay, again, this is where it gets weird. The two right-hand columns are 2023. Oh, sorry, 2022. The middle two big columns with the big numbers, that's 2023. So this is the most recent financials. Okay. Basically, what we're seeing there is the amount of money they have has gone down by about 7.5 grand. Because, of course, it's not just about money in and money out. There's other things like assets. And, of course, they acquired Turbulent during this time. They, so they paid the remaining 75%, I think it was, for Turbulent, which is like almost 5 million in and of itself, right? So there's a lot going on here. The bottom line is, even just cash-wise, sitting in their bank account, they've got 13.5 million. So you know, and that 8 million loss, 8.5 million loss, if you put that 10 million back in, which hasn't gone anywhere yet, it's still sat there, right? Actually, last year they made a profit of about 1.5 million, and I kind of break it down a little bit further in the video that I'll link to you guys at the end. So this is pretty much all I'm going to say on it, but it's looking good. The other thing, when you see people make this comment, they paid no dividends, right? For 2023, they paid no dividend out. That was it. Okay. Now, you might remember last year there was a little bit of a hoo-ha about, oh my God, the stakeholders can pull out money, and oh my God, they can do that in 2025 and it's going to bankrupt the company. No, it's not. So they've renegotiated that, and that's going to take, I think, another... so they basically kicked that can a year down the road, so they've renegotiated it so that it can basically last another year, right? The good news there is that there's also a clause, and this is the bit that people, for some reason, feel the need to skip over, which is no big shock, because why use facts if you're trying to create drama, is there's a line down here. Now, I'm going to put it here for a second because it's easier to spot on the screen. It's this bit just here, right? This paragraph, okay, that I'm now going to put in the center of the screen. So 2 paragraphs up from line 32, it says... Another reason that this isn't being counted as a liability at the moment is the terms say the proceeds would be payable out of available cash in excess of what is required to effectively operate the business. And that liability, that amount of money, would remain unpaid until the money's available. In other words, what they can't do is go, I want my money back now, and CIG go, the only way we can do that is if we sell everything and lay everyone off, and they go, tough, I want my money. They can't do that. So CIG say, hey, we can pay you this, but we need this money to keep production going. We need this money to keep working on Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And until we have spare money, you can't have any more wah, wah, wah. Right? That's it. So people are going to look at this. There's a lot of information in here. I mean, if you can read this stuff, there are some actually really interesting nuggets of information. And there's one bit that I didn't cover in the video that we'll cover now because it's worth having a look at once I can find it. And I'm just going to scroll as I talk to you. So excuse me for being rude and not looking directly at you. But basically, the bottom line here is that they're looking pretty damn secure. Okay, and there's one bit in here where the directors say at the first bit, there's kind of like a bunch of notes from CIG signed by Aaron Roberts and all that sort of stuff, and they're basically saying, this is our policy, this is what we do with our people, this is what we think our risks are, this is an explanation of what's happened this year, and they basically say, because it only works in 12 months, because obviously the reports are every 12 months, they say, we're solvent for the next 12 months, there's nothing going to happen, you know, unless there's an act of God or something that's going to bankrupt us, unless everyone stops buying our stuff all at once. And PricewaterhouseCoopers, the independent auditors, have agreed with that, again, like they've agreed with it every year. So there's that. So whatever you see now, whatever madness goes wrong, we know that up until the end of 2023, independent auditors have said it's fine, they're going to be all right. So, you know, all this idea of, oh my God, all this is happening, they're dying, you know, the comments about Citizencon I had on the Citizencon video about how we were coping hard because we were saying this wasn't an indication of financial struggle, that kind of seems to be, you know, them getting their nuts kicked in, which is really interesting. What's kind of really interesting here, there's 2 bits that I wanted to put on, is, I don't know if you can see this, okay, but there are 2 blocks of information. The second block is wages and salaries. Apologies, I can't really get much closer than this because it's a PDF, right? But maybe that'll help. You can see their wages and salaries. In 2022, they paid out 26 million, 26.5. In 2023, they paid out 49. So when we're wondering how big they're getting and how many staff extra they're adding, that's a significant number, right? That's almost double the salaries. I don't know, it won't be double the staff. They'll take on senior staff and stuff like that. There'll have been a couple of payouts, I'm sure. And also, of course, inflation during this period went up massively. So there's a lot for them to account for in there. But yeah, interesting. So yeah, so that have earmarked 10 million for leaving whenever that matters. Exactly that. And you know, all they've got to do is return it to the state that it was in when they bought it. So they tear down the stages and all that sort of stuff. And the landlord may well go, hey, you know, leave the offices as they are, like we really like the glass and all that sort of stuff, but you know, just get rid of all the geek stuff. Fine. So that's why that number's so hard to define. That's why they've set aside such a big chunk. Yeah, nice clause to have, so socially. Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. So, yeah. Until CIG have 54 million cash, the shareholders can't take it all out. Exactly. Exactly that. And that's even if they want to, right? So that's an option to buy. That's not a mandated. They basically have 30 days from the 2025 report. So we'll see that, like, you know, 2023 come out beginning of 2025. So 2025 report will come out beginning of 2027, about April time again. That's the first time they can demand their money back. So they basically buy it back at a 6% increase, a 6% premium. They can demand the company buy it back from them. So that's it. Good job on the financial coverage. Burgess, cheers. That's it, Stunner. We're all good. And do you know what? That's probably almost enough of this. Just one bit that I thought that was really interesting to cover. Video games tax relief, covered in the video, so we'll talk about this, is this bit. Where the money is actually coming from. So early access is the sales of game packages and ships. Subscriptions, we know what they are, and merchandise, we know what they are too. What's really interesting is you'll see there, subscriptions have dropped off about £250,000 over the 2 years. So now, 2023 subscription levels were back as they were in 2019. There or thereabouts, right? 2019, 2020-ish. So the subscriptions went up and then went down, which is kind of what you would expect, because obviously leading into this, 2022 into 2023, 2022 was kind of the end of lockdown and things were getting back to normal. People playing loads of games because there was nothing else to do because you couldn't go anywhere, at least here in the UK. You know, things are resettling, and they do actually mention that, and they say, you know, look, we had a couple of bumper years, things are getting harder now in the games market, so we're preparing for that and we're taking the measures. And when you do this, when you look at this and you have this conversation, the shutting down of the LA studio, one of the most expensive places in the US to live, right, and work and pay and all that sort of stuff, and like the laying off of QA staff and maybe a rejig of senior management, they make sense. This isn't a company that's in distress. This is a company that's trying to keep itself lean. And I think this is like the weird bit about gamers, is that if they just gone, oh, well, we just kept paying everyone and kept paying these ridiculous bills because we didn't want gamers to go, oh my God, they're in distress, right? We'd be really angry. That's 100% mismanagement. And actually, it's kind of a breach of their fiduciary duty, right? Which is we've got to look after the company, you know, and shareholders, although they're not public shareholders, right? That's financial irresponsibility. In other words, what they're doing is they're trying to be lean. They're shutting down studios in really expensive places. UK is more expensive for a lot of things. It's more expensive in terms of business tax. It's more expensive in terms of energy tax. But what's really energy prices. What's really interesting, though, is Britain and France are the only two countries in the world at the moment that offer tax relief on video games. The UK's is due to end soon, and I cover that in the video. I need to leave you a couple of teasers, right, for this video. It's only 8 minutes. We'll put it in the chat. You can go watch it at the end, and hopefully that kickstarts this information getting out to people before the panic sets in. Because it will. What hopefully you also see from this is that there's detail here that is lacking in what CIG show us. Right? And this is why I went through the pain of reading this. Honestly, it was, as I say in the video, like slamming my fingers in a door, but we got there in the end. And a big thanks to Can and to Edison. Edison for linking this to me, and then to both of them. We sat and went through this, the three of us in voice chat, for about an hour, spotting things and bouncing things off. And, you know, Edison used, and Can did as well, some of their experience of business to fill in some of my gaps. So, thanks to the guys. That's where the information comes from. Bottom line, financially, we are not concerned, and neither is CIG, about the state of CIG itself, where our money's going, and that the dream that is Star Citizen, at least for the time being, is, you know, alive and well. It's not all sunshine and roses, as I say in the video, but that's where we are. Okay, let's jump back across. You're going to see some of the taskbar just because I'm kind of hiding some of the details on the right, or on the left even, but let's have a look. No? That bit. That's what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. Okay, so first parts then. If you've seen the video to this already, you'll kind of know where I'm going with this, but let's talk about it anyway. The Citizencon change. Okay, so, long story short, Citizencon, 11th of October, 1 day, online only, Twitch and YouTube, free. That's that. A couple of interesting bits in here is they basically say this, and I'm just going to highlight it so you guys can see the bit that I'm talking about. This year's showcase will be shorter than a traditional physical or digital Citizencon. I didn't mean to say Citizencon, I meant to say Citizencon. Freudian slip. But it will be densely packed with exciting content and reveals you won't want to miss. Okay? So, what's interesting is they've toned down the hyperbole from last year. Last year's Star Citizencon, it was like, this is going to be the best Citizencon ever, right? You can't miss this, which is why we were kind of thinking maybe Squadron 42 was going to be a little bit closer. So, yeah, I'm just going to knock the volume down of this in my headset, because it's kind of crazy, and then I'll bump it up for you guys, because I don't want you to miss the music, if the music is even still playing. There we go. Lovely. I think at some point you're going to get, if you haven't had it already, there's a nerf squeak just hiding in there somewhere, because I put it in the wrong folder, so it plays that, but I keep it in because it's funny. Okay, so there's all that. What do you guys think? Disappointed? Happy? You know, because of course it was in the UK this year, so chances are it was LA the year before, so it would have been either the US or Frankfurt in Germany, or even possibly Canada, which would have been quite cool. But what do you think? What do you make of the fact that Citizencon now direct only this year, no in person? I'm kind of interested to see what you guys think. So yeah. Better than what I said, except expected, says Kaiser. Good. I'm happy with that. Sounds like a money moving move to me, a money saving move to me. Del, good to see you. Good evening, mate. In short, CIG at that time does not have the liquid cash; they can't pull the money out. Yeah, exactly that. It's really interesting, right? When they did the year of stability and everything else that was coming out of that, one of the things that I asked was, I wonder what will happen with Citizencon if all they're going to do is focus on bug fixes, stability, and building content within the systems that they have presently. That doesn't make for a great Citizencon. And I guess we've got our answer, right? Is when they're switching the focus, you're going to get a shorter period, and you know, I'm good with that. That makes sense to me. I don't have a problem with that. You know, there's going to be bastarders and watch parties and stuff. And what's quite interesting is I think a few of us are quite interested in maybe getting together anyway. I don't know whether I try and host something here in the UK, maybe do an event like a public one, and you know, people can just rock up to that, or whether I do a DGP one, maybe here at the house, barbecue, all that sort of stuff, and we sit down and watch it. The only problem with that is I don't have a TV, so I'll have to like hire some equipment to like project it on the wall or something, or just hire a really big TV for the day, because everything I do in front of the computer. So yeah, I just heard Badger say open house at his place, says Dell. Yeah, 100%. I feel bad for the Star Citizens that like to be together in person, but I appreciate the move of the final push release, Squadron 42, coming next year. Yeah, absolutely, Stunner. And it'll be interesting to see, on that note, whether there is some sort of Squadron 42 release event for backers. Because, of course, if they wait for Citizencon, that's right at the back end of 2026, although maybe that's what they're aiming for. Interesting whichever way that pans out, though. And you know I'll be here to cover it anyway. Obviously, if I do something kind of in person here, the chances are we won't cover it. I might do a live stream if it's somewhere out public. The problem is Manchester's like 4 hours up the coast, and I know like all the Americans in chat have just rolled their eyes and gone, only 4 hours, really, dude? Like, what's the problem? But 4 hours to go to the pub and then come back again, right? Even if you stay overnight, that's a lot of travel. It's not the cheapest city in the UK by far. So yeah, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't bother with that. And do something a little bit more locally if there's enough interest to do it. We'll see. So that's Citizencon. I guess given the lack of huge kind of chat and everything else and responses, that people are just meh-ing that one. And I think Stunner kind of hit the nail on the head. It's a shame that you don't get to be together in person and that people don't get to meet up. I loved it last year, getting to meet Dell and Edison and Solarstorm. And Can and everyone that was there. It was just so good. Getting to bump into Algorithmic and Execute, Billionaire Ninjas, and everyone else. It was just really cool to meet people. And that's part of what I like, is you get to feed off that energy of everyone being in the room without all their scam citizen nonsense. So that was quite nice. But we'll see. Don't matter. Good evening, fella. Good to see you. Glad you've made it. This is the interesting one. So, yeah, this is going to be I think this is going to be divisive. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a poll up. And I'm going to make this one a really quick one as well. So let's do that, and then let's just change the answers to. And I was going to do something funny. I was going to add an option which is like completely random, but I know what we're like as gamers. We'll just click that because we're assholes, so we're not going to do that. But good, bad, and let's just go. Don't care. So, what do we think of the referral change? For those that aren't sure or don't know of what's happening with the referral change, they're basically changing the way referrals work. So as of July 1st this year, the current referral program will die. It will no longer be available. Anything you've got, you'll keep, but that current ladder will no longer be there. And I might just in a second go and switch across and try and load that up so you guys can see what it is at the moment. So they're going to load a new one. The key thing here is that whatever referrals you have to date will be wiped or will not count against the new ladder. Okay, so if you've got your 2042 referrals, those effectively have been spent, and so have anything over those referrals. You just basically, I want to use the word shit it. I guess that's what I mean. Is like you have shit it, right? So I'm just gonna go back to this because I need to load this up through my account page, and like hell am I doing that in front of you lot. I love you and all, but I'm not going to lie, I kind of don't trust you as far as I can throw you. So, yeah. let's not do that and say we didn't, right? So, yeah, bear with me just 2 seconds. Going to go and have a look at manage settings. Here we go. Okay, referral program. What is the referral program? Let's load that up here. Okay, cool. Right, so this is what the referral program is at the moment. So, using your referral code, basically, it's got to be used when the person using creates their account. So it's not at the point of purchase; it's the point of account creation. Okay, they get 5,000 UEC on top of their account. And you get a referral token. And obviously sometimes if, there's a promotion going on, you can get other things as well. And basically this is it. So at one recruitment point, you basically get a badger and a bunch of badges. At 3, you get gimbals and guns. At 4, you get the PTV and the fish tank filled with exotic fish that's not actually filled with exotic fish at the moment. At 10, you get a Gladius, and then you get gold ships of the Aurora Constellation, Hornet, Avenger, and Freelancer. At 25, you get the 350R, M50, Mustang Gamma in Arena Commander, not the PU, and so on and so forth. The big things here, the kind of really big items. At 100, you get the Blade. Okay. At 200, you get the Glaive. At 500, you get the Terrapin and the Hurricane. At 1042, you get access to the Million Mile High Club. And then at the 2017, you get the Javelin. Okay, and as you can see from the leaderboard, there are a lot of people who have gone over that. Streamers, unsurprisingly, Ollie43, Nebel, Level Cap, Morphologist, and Odechat. Or Odechat. So yeah, these people, everything they got over 2017 is now irrelevant. And what their issue with this is, and I kind of understand this, because if you say something, you do it, right? Is this bit here, right? Just above where it says help the growing community. I'm going to zoom in so there is no mistake. More levels to be revealed. So this wasn't a, hey, we'll replace it and everything you'll do will be invalid. This was a more levels. Now, what's really interesting about these, especially when you consider the numbers of referrals by each of these people, that referral only counts if their game package costs $40 or more. So, you know, Nebel was actually quite vocal in Spectrum when they announced this. 7,466 times 40. You know, and I'm not saying that those people have only bought because of him, but he is in some way involved, whether they've just created it or whatever else, right? So it's a significant amount of money, and I can actually see why, with over 5,000 referrals above the maximum level, why you'd go, hang on a second, I feel a bit discounted by this. The other side of this is this obviously only affects community figures and streamers. I don't know if there's a single kind of player to this who's not either an org leader or a streamer / content creator / community figure that's got the Javelin. Happy to be told otherwise, and it's awesome for them if they have, but this is obviously something that's only affecting the content creators. So Edison says, to me, the big downside of referrals is that it's just for big streamers and YouTubers, not for the average backers at all. Yeah, I mean, so you might get to 5, I suppose, 3 or 5, maybe. You know, I've kind of press ganged at least that many people in when I was, you know, before I was doing the content creation. I think I got to 3. So that's that. You know, getting to 10, I think, is probably the aspiration for most people in getting that Gladius. Anything over that, you know, getting to kind of 42 is a bit weird because I've zoomed in. Maybe if I zoomed out a bit, it'll make it a little bit more sense. There we go. You know, going to, you know, Arena Command, sorry, to 25, that's Arena Commander stuff. Anything above that is just unachievable for the regular person. Citizen Ninja says they can at least transfer the referrals we have after the last reward. So if someone is 1 to 4 away from a Gladius, then you'd start with 1 to 4 referrals in the new referral program. But, yep. And I think that's certainly, you know, I think the question is how they achieve that, right? And the other question is why? Why are they referring this? And I wonder whether they are now getting a little bit shocked at maybe how many Javelins they have handed out. Because, of course, this is just showing us the top 5 people. What it's not showing us at how many people are sitting at the 2017 or above level and how many Javelins they've had to hand out as a result. Because that's it. Dark Matter says money. You're not wrong, sir. You know, new rewards re-incentivizes people to do that. So yeah, absolutely. What else have we got in here? Referral tokens to buy claw machine toys, says Dark Matter. PTV at 5 referrals, got it for at 10 referrals currently. So yeah, absolutely. CIG can do referral for events and such, but a program like we have is meh. It's too much of a dick measuring contest. Yeah, and this is why I find this kind of conversation really interesting, right? It's not so much the do they carry referrals over or not. It's I don't mean to single the guy out because I can see where he's coming from, but it's where it's the conversation like they've had with Salty Mike, right? Which is the difference between an incentive and a reward, apparently, as far as gamers go, generally, is whether you've got it or not. Okay? So if you've got it, it's a reward. If you don't have it, it's an incentive. Which is weird, because, like, how then do you create a reward system that rewards bringing new people into the game that doesn't act as an incentive? I think the only reason people view it as an incentive is precisely that reason, because they don't have it. Do you see what I mean? So I think it's a little bit weird in that way. Is that, you know, people call it predatory and all this, that, and the other stuff, right? Is that everything, like supermarkets over here have reward points for when you spend, and when you get to so many points, you get money back. It's not that different at all. And sure, there are items in here that you can't get, or you couldn't get. You can't always get through other purchases. But you know, the other side of that is people will go, well, why would I want that referral? Why would I want that bonus? Why would I refer people? I can just go buy it when I want to. So it's a bit of an interesting one. This is why I find this kind of a riveting conversation, not just from the point of view of how does CIG do it, but how do we as gamers, if what we do is attack every reward system that comes our way, like all we do is turn developers off to, well, we're not going to do that because there was, you know, like loot boxes. We're not going to do loot boxes because there was a huge backlash. Now, I'm not saying that that was a reward system. What I'm saying is whenever there's a backlash, hopefully developers will stay away from it. But if we backlash every single reward system, what will happen is we won't get reward systems anymore. And then it's like, well, why bother? Do you know what I mean? It's odd to me that it's seen as predatory when the alternative is you pay for everything, right? But yeah. Anyway, um, Stove S. Good evening. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome in. Stove says, I'd say what they should do is every referral after, say, 2017 goes to a community referral program where at each rank there everyone gets a reward like a new paint. Interesting. Yeah, so the ability to maybe divvy that out or, you know, to reward everyone. Do they do it by orgs? You know, what about orgs recruiting people in? You know, one of the interesting things is, one of the things I find really weird is the amount of streamers who, and content creators, who persistently crap all over this game, but include the referral code in their descriptions and feature them prominently. It's that, I don't want to use the word despicable, but that's what it is, right? If you don't support something, why are you actively driving then other people getting involved? And because the only way your referral code becomes useful is they pay $40 to meet the minimum required for the referral bonus. And I don't know if it's on here or somewhere else, but there you go. So here, whenever a recruit becomes an actual Star Citizen player by buying a game package, brackets, with minimum value of $40, you earn 1 recruitment point. So you're basically crapping on a game, you're not supporting it, you're saying that it's trash and it's awful and it's mismanaged and that it's a scam and that it's disgusting and they treat players awful, and then you're actively encouraging other players to spend £40 on it or $40 on it so you can get rewards in the game that you apparently hate. Am I going mad? Is this where we are as a community? And that people reward people like that with subs and follows and channel memberships and Patreon. And is that, like, If what CIG is doing is predatory, what on earth is that? It does not make any sense to me whatsoever. And this is why I steer away. There are times when I consider, when I'm really kind of knocked off with the game, I ask myself on a quite regular basis, would I recommend this to someone who had $40 to spend on their next game? And I think when my answer to that becomes no consistently, I'll remove the referral code from everything that I've got, including videos I've already released. I'll just take it off. And if I find that I've put it somewhere on the screen, because I don't do that at the moment, other than now, but that's a mistake. Scroll down. If I find that I'm doing that, I'll remove it from that part of the video. So this live stream now, I'll just have to remove this part, or blank it out, or something. But yeah, it shows it's an interesting difference. Anyway, so Scissor Ninja says Morph started listing his patrons referral codes. Got jabs for a bunch of them too. That's awesome. And the info runners do that as well. As they try and they put up people's referrals codes when they do fix my fleets and stuff to try and get them at least to like a Gladius or something. So that's really cool. Yeah, no list is out yet. It's 1st of July. We see the new list. So we'll cover that when we get there. So, well, if they did add a referrals retroactive, I would have put around 50 because I got them in before we had a referral program and you got nothing for them. Yeah, absolutely. Concierge annoys me too, says Socially. Dark Matter says there'll only be so many people to own accounts, and I don't see if being huge numbers like... sorry, I'll start that again, Dark. I can't words at the moment. There will only be so many people to own accounts, and I don't see it being huge numbers. Like if we judge a top-selling Steam game that's your player one odd exclusive reward every year. Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing is that like for us, we are now gamers. There's going to be a constant host of people who are getting their PC behind us, getting their first PC, whether that's an age thing or whether that's just they now have the money to do it. There will be a constant stream of new people, and that, whether we like it or not, that's the lifeblood of any game, because people achieve what they want to do in a game, or they get knocked off with it and they move on. So I think there'll always be that constant run of new players, but that's that. A reward system that's within the game and can be earned by playing a game is different from a reward system which rewards recruiting people to spend cash. It has the flavour of a pyramid scheme. Yeah, I get that. I think, the other thing is as well is, I've gone and bought Atom 4 today. I was installing it just before I went live on stream. The reason I got that was because I was looking at it, wasn't sure, a mate of it. I asked a mate who I saw playing it. He says he's really enjoying it. And I know we like similar games. Now add to that he could go, yeah, cool, just type this stuff in when you buy it, and we'll both get free stuff out of it. So that sort of stuff, friends joining friends in games, happens anyway. The question is then, is we treat it like a game. So it's like, I want the next thing, I must complete the next thing, I must achieve the next level, I must get that achievement, however we're looking at it, and that's when our drive turns it into something that's predatory. It's us, and the flip side of that is CIG know, as does the entire gaming market, that's how we go. That's why loot boxes were successful. Loot boxes, no one in their right mind would do that stuff unless you're a gambleaholic, right? And yet. So yeah, Stove says, streamers that dump on the game and still send out referral codes, that sounds like a salty thing to do. I'm not having a go at Salty Mike there. I'm specifically not mentioning him. There's someone else, there's a couple of other people that I'm thinking of. It's not necessarily Salty Mike. My opinion on Salty Mike has changed quite a bit, for the better, given a couple of things that have happened recently. So, streamers have ruined community gating Dark Matter. I feel personally attacked by this. But I see what you mean. I can see where you're going with that. I love the game. I don't recommend it to people I know until this is released. It's too buggy. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I will say, even to the people who are absolutely mad on it, free flies. Because if you can put up with this game during the server nightmare that is a free fly, you'll be okay when the servers are behaving themselves, playing up less, let's say, when there's not a free fly. So that. They make the game culture all about the naughtiness of voyeuristic game watching and some douche personality. Really feeling attacked by this now. Just allow them to give tokens. Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. I think the other thing, right, is that streamers as well, you know, could absolutely guest refer. Once you hit 2017, they can guest referrals, right? They can, as we say, you can do things for community, and someone mentioned earlier that, you know, that's happened in people's community, which is really cool. You know, that sort of stuff can happen with us as well. We can absolutely do that, and see where we go. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of low-key glad that they're changing it, because if I had to make a guess, it would be that we'll probably won't see the Javelin return to the referrals bonus thing. And I'm kind of glad, because when they start releasing more of the ship systems, I'm going to do a series using my naval experience called Fleet or Ship Command, and one called Fleet Command. So in other words, captaining your own ship and then being, you know, a shot caller for a fleet. And what I was really worried about was that the community do what the community does best, which is get together, drive my referral code for me, get me a Javelin, and then go, now put your money where your mouth is, Popeye, show us this in action. Which is like performance anxiety over 9,000. So I'm kind of glad that that's getting taken away. And I'm only mentioning this now because we're only a couple of months and there's no way that's happening between now and then. So, bullet dodged. I can make videos without constantly being going, yeah, get in your Javelin and do it for us. So, we're in a good place with that. So there's that. Arazalinto, good evening, welcome in. Referrals should just have a short track up to like 10, maybe 25, and that's it. I've never seen a game giving away so much crap for so many hundreds and thousands of referrals. Yeah, this is true, and maybe that's it, right? But maybe by having that, and only having so many levels or so much fewer levels. It stops the drive to constantly do that, and then maybe streamers and content creators and community figures will spend more time heroing people, you know, in the community they think worthy. Firebrand, good evening, good to see you. So yeah, so that's that. Don't worry, I already have a Javelin ready for you to do that. Go away, Edison. Captain, one of our interests. Don't worry, we have great expectations of what you'll do in your Perseus. Yeah, Perseus, right? Kind of excited to see that when that lands. That's going to be good, because of course we've had the community reports, and we can go and have a look at that now. We can go and take a look, because of course what was really interesting in the latest monthly report was quite a lot on ships. There's a lot in the works, so we'll absolutely scoot down and find that, and then have a chat. So hopefully you can read that okay when I change across. Okay, so Golem, Geo here, great. TAC moving into the final development phase, and the Pioneer progressing through White Box. So two, I would say, I think people were pretty excited about the Starlancer. And after base building, obviously the Pioneer's been selling out like crazy, even more so than normal. And what was quite nice, I think the rework went down really well. It's, you know, sometimes reworks don't do, thinking primarily the Carrack here, you know, people lose their when stuff changes before it's released. Whereas this one seems to be, you know, doing pretty well. Then at the top here, we've got an unannounced vehicle successfully passed Grey Box. 2 other vehicles received bug fixing pass and final work ahead of their release. So 3 vehicles right there. Okay. And another new ship is currently being prepared for its Grey Box Gate review. Now people might be going, oh, hang on a second. That's the Apollo and the Perseus. That's not true. These are separate. So we have there unannounced vehicle, 2 other vehicles, and another ship. So we got 3 vehicles and a ship. 4. Apollo and Perseus. The Apollo successfully passed its white box review into grey box. Perseus, white box review at the start of March. Okay, and then doing really rather well. And what's really cool about this is I'm RSI fanboying out massively because I like both of those. I have CCU chains that take me to, well, I've got the Perseus, but I've got a CCU chain that takes me to the Apollo Medevac. Quite excited about that. But at the moment, I'm really happy with my Terrapin Medic. That's really cool. I just love the way the ship looks. It's armoured and angry and squat and looks like it wants to punch stuff really hard. And that's good. And then at the bottom, 3 unannounced vehicles too. A variant of a popular ship, and this is why it's really weird, is that they use vehicle and ship interchangeably. Ships can be vehicles, vehicles can be ships. Ships possibly not vehicle. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, how do you distinguish between ground vehicle and ship? Because, of course, there's things like the stuff that we know that's coming. There's the CSVFM. There's the fabrication hand cart, the base building hand cart that's got to come, which is going to be, effectively a vehicle. There's the drones that work off that, which indicate good news for the Apollo. So, yeah, there's a lot there to work on and a lot there to kind of do. I'm going with the Galaxy module with the Galaxy with Med module currently, says Razalinto. Nice. Maybe the Atlas medical variant. Atlas medical variant, how would that work? Like a stretcher or something, or just like picking people up and flinging them around. Possibly, yeah. But lots of that. Shady Face, good evening. No Perseus at Invictus is the claim there. Yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that it's only just past white box going into grey box and that sort of stuff. Yeah. It's looking unlikely. But then again, well, what? We've still got a month and a half, 2 months, so maybe? I don't know. I don't really want to take a stab at any of that, because it just hypes people up and then people get really disappointed. And people have got a... certain content creators and community and streamers have got a lot to answer for when it comes to things like hyping people up and almost making it seem like CIG have said things that they haven't. So yeah, there's a little bit to answer for there. Let's have a look. Maybe a grey cat vehicle too, like a minor or medical. Yep, and of course we know there's a couple other things. So we know that there's going to be an RSI Salvager, which sits below the Vulture, more along the lines of the Golem. That was a straight up answer to the Golem Q&A, was that they're going to release some profession starters that are below the $100 mark, and that they specifically mentioned an RSI Salvager. And that sounds like fun, but I have my Drake Vulture. I actually quite like the aesthetic of it. It's not a... Drake isn't normally my manufacturer of choice, but actually it's not that bad, so I can manage. Being disappointed is half the fun, says Rosalinto. It seems to be, for some people, yeah, or disappointing others, almost. So there's that. Yeah, Atlas med variant would be like the Spartan, but with a med bed in the back. On an Atlas? Oh, hang on. Oh yes, of course. I did a whole bunch of recording, which is now in that folder as well. So let's do that instead. Hopefully, that sounds a lot better. There we go. A little bit of music. There we go. Maybe a Mantis combat variant. Yeah, I think they're talking about... I think that's, kind of been rumoured quite a bit. Oh, sorry. Atlas platform vehicles. Yes, Sid Ninja, sorry. Yeah. You're entirely correct. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I see what you mean now. That makes a lot more sense than the Atlas. I'll go Atlas. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I wonder if people are talking about ground vehicle Atlas or exoskelly Atlas. Yeah, absolutely that. As I just amply demonstrated, it was all in the plan. It was all in the plan. Stove S says, I think they're going to make a Drake Golem DS where you have a friend duct taped to the side of the ship. I'm laughing at that for two reasons. One, I can just see that happening, and two, I rewatched the Deadpool Wolverine movie and the bit where they have the fight in the car, and then after the fight, the camera kind of pans across the top, and he's literally just basically taped Deadpool inside the car, completely tied him up. Yeah, that's where the giggling was coming from. One of my favourite scenes in that entire movie was, yeah, those two fighting in the car. A touring Apollo variant want to replace the ugly Phoenix. Perseus DS with two extra turrets taped to the side. The Perseus needs no more turrets. 100% does not need any more turrets. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, so that's that. What's really interesting here is right at the bottom it says, work continued on 3 unannounced vehicles too. A variant of a popular ship passed Greybox review. Another variant is approaching Greybox. All new, entered production. And is that the same as the... I mean, it's obviously not the top ones, right? Because the top one, past Greybox, the other two have passed Greybox. These talks about stuff going into review. So that's what? The Starlancer, the unannounced vehicle that's passed its Greybox review, the two others in the final content work, so that's 4, Apollo 5, Perseus 6, then 3 more down there. We're up to 9. There's 9 things in the work. Do you remember when the ship team was massively undergunned and they were like understaffed and struggling to put stuff out? And now there's 9 of them. Which is a little bit bonkers, frankly. So yeah. A lot in there to kind of think of and that sort of stuff. I'm not going to lie. When I first started reading this report... this is probably a nice segue into this, but... When I started reading this report, I wasn't massively impressed. Now... New stuff is great, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say we shouldn't get new stuff. But 2 months ago, we were told that the focus would be stability and bug fixing. Focus, stability, bug fix, quality of life. Read the first sentence. In March, AI features priority was the Valagar. The reason this knocks me off so much is back in 2018, I think it was, a similar announcement was made by CIG. We acknowledge that the game's not in a great state. We acknowledge that people need the stability. We're going to focus on stability. And then what happened was, I mean, I'm just guessing here. What happened was that didn't occur. That didn't materialize. They didn't focus on it. I'm guessing that's something along the lines of they were maybe a little bit terrified about if they slow new features, A, the press backlash and the community backlash, and B, that it wouldn't continue to attract new players and keep, the turnover going. I get that. It's not a good moment in CIG's history. If you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. Unless there's a reason not to do it, and then come clean about that reason, because you've got to keep people in the loop. The reason this kind of knocks me off is that I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's, okay, you made a mistake. You're now doing the same thing again, and you're endeavouring to do it right. But what happens is, like, once is not a pattern. Twice is. Twice is the beginnings of a pattern. And that, for me, would be a significant... indication that CIG are not holding up their end of the bargain, because we didn't put their feet to the fire on this. We didn't suddenly stop buying and say, until you do that, we're not going to spend another penny, and cut off their funding. They've done this, and okay, it's in response to what the community is saying, but they could have quite happily carried on with what they were doing and not done it. So they're saying they're going to do it, and there were other things they said in that video as well. They said we were going to get a new roadmap, which was going to show us what bugs they were going to fix. We have no way of tracking the bugs. We have no way of tracking what's happening. And when you see throwaway lines like this, it worries me. Okay, so if you and I were to talk about some of the biggest bugs now, it would be things like missions not completing, freight elevators not working, hangars not working, transit system not working. Okay, the good news is on the transit system, they've said this, which is this bit up here. Okay, the transit system rework, known as the transport system, progressed throughout March, with the team adding setup validation and debugging for non-physicalized carriages to better detect setup issues. The ability to connect carriage zones by a transport network, needed for routing on your minimap, was added, as were destination categories and priorities, along with a means to display destinations on carriage panels. So in other words, it'll tell you what your next stop is, that sort of stuff. Okay, for systems that are in loops. You know, obviously for Hurston, you're just going one or the other, it's easy. Okay. So that's good news, right? There's detail, they're telling us what they're doing. Might not understand all of it, but at least they're explaining it. The problem with the other stuff is this. Improvements were made to commodity kiosks. What improvements? What's happened? And then fixes were made for bugs relating to hangars, freight elevators, and deliveries. Three of the biggest ticket items, I think, at the moment that are really hacking people off in terms of bugs and things not working, as well as the mission system and stuff not completing properly. Three of the biggest items. Not being able to get any hangars, ships not spawning, exploding on invisible hangar doors, stuff spawning upside down or inside other ships. Freight elevators not working, issues, problems, not recognizing. Especially during like the last series of missions, we had this weird situation where if you had stuff on the lift, let's say you had 20 RMC, and 7 of that RMC was needed for a mission, it would flag all 20 as used. So you'd have 13 RMC in your freight elevator that couldn't be used to complete the missions. What? Fixes were made for bugs. What bugs? What fixes? What's getting better? What's fixed? Give us like a tally of the issue council. How many issues are there? How many did you, even if you don't want to give us a total, because, you're worried about duplicates and the number not being representative, at least tell us how many issue council things you smash each month. Because that's the idea now, right? Is that we're going to get a patch each month now until the end of the year. It won't be like 4.1, 4.2, but it'll be 1.1, 1.2, or 4.1.1, 4.1.2, etc. etc. Okay. They will do anything to create an excuse not to make the Endeavour yet, says Razalinto. Facts. Could be the E1 Spirit or the ST Zeus. Absolutely. I wonder if we'll get combat mech suits from multiple manufacturers, not just Argo. Citizen Ninja, I'm adamant that Argo thing at Wickelow's is not real. It's not going to be something we get to use. I really do not think that's the case. I'm happy to be wrong, but it's Argo. So there's a couple of elements here. Argo's not a weapon manufacturer, and I know that can change, but here's the other thing, and I think this is the bit that people do understand quite easily, is if the first Combat Atlas they sell is something with one gun, then it's exciting to sell one with two. If the first one you sell is one with two, why would you ever buy one with one? Unless it's much bigger. You see what I mean? So even from a marketing standpoint, it doesn't make sense. It also looks in the nicest possible way when you compare it to the, and I'll go and show you, I'll load it up while we're sat here talking. If you compare it to the Titan suit kind of concept art, it's trash, man. It really is. It looks awful when you look at all the options for the way that it could look like this. Right? Fully enclosed. Seals around you, has some sort of pop-up HUD like Iron Man or whatever else, right? So much stuff to do it. To just put it in that Atlas thing is it would just be such a missed opportunity. It would be, frankly, pants. Would not support that at all. It would just be good. We got the Volt weapon at least, absolutely. So we got the Volt, is it the assault rifle, and then the SMG is coming with the next point patch. So that's exciting. You know, as are things like the revised chip combat thing. That's coming as well, so that'll be good. SA, good to see you, buddy. How you doing? Good to have you in, my friend. Yeah, so some combat suits will have trade-offs. Light ones will be faster, for example. Yeah, I think the key thing for me here is that, you know, they're going to be very tough from the front. If I was to do this, they would be slow to turn and slow to move. So very powerful, very slow. So they need to work with infantry to kind of keep people away from behind them. You know, a much weaker behind, maybe you can damage the power pack. Maybe you can just go in and pull it out, right? That sort of stuff. Because otherwise, if they're swift and they turn fast and they everything, they're just going to be a little bit much with a you know, size 1 ship weapon, or 2 if that combatless is true. That's a lot. AI says, agree, the combat mech will look so much better than that triggerfish. Yeah, it's a bit rough. There was a post made on Reddit from someone at CIG saying it doesn't work, nothing to see here, move along. But, you know, it wouldn't be the first time that people have said stuff on Reddit and it turns out not to be true, right? Even if people affiliated with the company. So yeah, I want to see that Argo mech at Pyro Outpost as an NPC defense platform and only in game. Yeah, so I think that's the other thing, is maybe that it's like he's captured it from someone, or you know, it was kit bashed, because he does tend to say like, bring me this and I'll make you it. So maybe that's what he is. He kit bashes stuff, and it does look like a kit bash. It doesn't look great. It's not what I was hoping from a first Titan suit. The first Titan suit should be incredible. Okay. I wonder how crazy sale will be when they release a proper combat mech. Don't know. Good question. Don't know. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, sorry, I'm just mucking around with my webcam frame because I've managed to move everything helpfully again. So yeah, whatever, I'll figure it out. There we go. Ta-da, or something. AV, hello, bud. Real combat power armor will probably sell better than hover bikes. Yeah, 100%. The combat atlas could be a Wicklow modified reward, only not something Argo makes. Yeah, Shady, that would work. And as an in-game reward, I think potentially, maybe as hanger flare. Because the question then becomes, you know, one of the things they're saying a lot about these rewards is once you get them, you know, not so much the Wicklow stuff, but it's certainly for the campaign, and I say campaign, for the story that's going on now. A lot of that is, sorry, I'm just going to pop some pills. They are paracetamol, before anyone gets angry at me. YouTube, I didn't mean I was going to pop any exciting stuff. This is just paracetamol, but I have a raging headache that is refusing to go away, which is not fun. For the first combat mech, they should put feet on the Rock DS and give it a rail gun. Raz, no, don't give him ideas, man. Just don't do that. That's not going to end well. So yeah, we'll see. How dare you medicate yourself, says Wiggy. Wiggy, fight me. Do you know what I mean? Good to see you, buddy. But still, fight me. Sorry, working on being a concept artist, says Raz. Oh god, no, don't do that. As in, don't give him the idea. Concept artist, cool. That, not so much. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome back. So yeah, this to me is far better a product, and just, I mean, there's so much on there that, so if I come out of that just for a second and we go back, let's have a look at some of the Titan suit stuff. I mean, it just, let's use that one. This is a really cool image as well, as long as I can. Are you gonna? There we go. That's kind of cool, right? Like seeing how it all closes over, it closes and then it closes around the arms and that sort of stuff, and you can kind of see how it closes around the legs, that sort of stuff, and that idea of like a charging station or a service station for them where you can maybe change out the loadout, definitely change the batteries, you know, maybe automatically empty like the Atlas Geo and stuff like that, into other SCU containers. There's loads there they can do with it over and above that bloody Atlas suit. So yeah. That concept image you have up for the Titan suit is my desktop background. Got an animated one off of Warpound. Nice. Very cool. Those robes remind me of 40k. I'd see where you're going with that socially. Apteryx, hello buddy, good to see you. Everyone wants a suit of tactical dreadnought armor. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Terminators for sure. In fact, on that note, I don't know if I'm going to get it open, but yeah, for the I don't know if this is going to play. I'm really hoping this doesn't shatter because I'm forcing this glass cabinet open because I don't have the key with me. Here we go. So yeah, tactical dreadnought armor. That's a space marine from the Leviathan box. So yeah, tactical dreadnought armor. Why not? Let's do that. CIG Gib. So yeah. But yeah, 100%. And yes, everything I have is not painted. Before you start, absolutely not painting anything. So yeah, Wicklow rewards modified ships like a Scorpius for £4 points instead of just 2. So him giving a combat atlas wouldn't be odd. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So that's that. So hopefully, what we get in terms of a definite. What is going on here? Oh, here we go. Timeline 1. I didn't want to do that. And I don't want to play that because that is the music I normally play when I end the stream, and we don't want to play that now and give people the idea. So let's do this instead. I'm going to get in trouble because that's copyright music, but I don't care. So tough. But yeah, so that. No. I prefer an elemental power suit from Battletech, says Timble. Interesting, like it. Timble, if I haven't said hello. Sorry, I'm being rude and not acknowledging people as they go in. But yeah, so that's that. So there's a lot going on. One of the things that, like I say, I really want to do is I want to kind of point you guys in the direction of this financial video. You know, partly because I think it's really interesting for you, partly because I think it's going to be something that, you know, could do with a little bit extra exposure to get out there to head off all the nightmare stuff as and when it starts. So, what I'm very tempted to do, just because of this headache, is refusing to go away. And I am basically hanging out of my backside, having spent all night working on this video, as I'm tempted to kind of draw it a little bit to a close slightly early, and give you this guys a link to make up for it, to say sorry for the fact that I'm bailing on you early. But yeah, I think that's where we are. And then next week, I'm kind of interested to do a little bit around either the mining outpost or the remote asteroid bases, seeing as the heat will be off them now, because the majority of PvP will be happening around the mining laser stuff. But I'm kind of interested as to whether or not we can take a couple of jet bikes, hover bikes, go land a little bit away, get to it, and then, you know, kind of do like the sniper team, sit there and do some PvP. I think that might be quite fun. So yeah, Timble, thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. That's very kind of you to say. So yeah, we'll see. But I think there's certainly some stuff to do. If you're not in the Discord, and I know most of you are, but if you're not in the Discord, in the link, get yourselves in 9 o'clock UK time. So basically an hour and a half ago, every Friday night ops, when I'm not busy. I've been busy the last couple of weeks, but I'll be around for this one this week. We'll get together. We'll go and do some cool stuff. We had to go at salvaging over the weekend. We just found a Polaris randomly and then added a Hammerhead to that mix and just salvaged the living bejesus out of both of them, which is good fun when there's a group of you. Stuff that might be a little bit boring, or one or two of you, when there's a group, it's actually quite good fun. And maybe we'll do some sneaky catchy monkey ops in and around those sorts of locations. And then, maybe make a video out of it or record it for posterity, and if it works really well, we can do it on Sundays. Maybe we'll start doing some community streams and such. That might be quite good fun to start diversifying the content. I mean, the key thing that I want to achieve here is what would be really nice is to be on CIG's radar when Squadron comes out, so that, you know, we can do stuff together. We can, you know, kind of look at that. I can give you kind of as much of a heads up as to how things work as possible. And not necessarily from like, I'm not talking about getting an early access, but if they are doing some event, maybe being able to talk to some of the devs, get an interview section going or whatever would be really cool. Because I think that would be really kind of great content for you guys. So, you know, let's see how much that kind of gets any sort of traction at all. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to link into chat right now. I'm going to pop the link for this video, and hopefully that's useful for everyone, and that you enjoy that. Feel free to share it around. I tend to, I'm kind of a little bit self-conscious, I think to my own detriment, about sharing stuff on social media, because I don't like self-promotion posts when other people do it, so I'm not about to do it myself. But, you know, if it's worth it and you hear people talking about it and you want to point them in the direction of that video, that's fine. You know, everything in there is factual. It looks quite clickbaity, but it's not. Everything in there is accurate and backed up with the figures. So I'm quite happy to robustly defend it in the comments, and I'm kind of getting that way anyway. Have we discussed Citizens yet? We have, Upteryx, but if there's something you wanted to add or talk about, then by all means, or a question you want to ask. We've kind of done the I think it was the referral program thing, and I'm just ending the poll there to see where people are on the referral program. But we've did a little bit about the financial report, Apteryx. We've done Citizencon. I did a video on that as well, so I only wanted to cover it briefly. And we've talked about the referral program and how that has worked, and the kind of two sides to that coin. One, that it only ever streamers or community leaders that get to like the higher levels. But two, CIG did say they were going to add levels and not just wipe everything from the start. So it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So yeah, I kind of get where both sides are coming on that. Well, I've ended the poll, but it doesn't seem to want to do the poll. There we go. There we go. So 12% of us saying bad, 36% saying good, and an overwhelming 51%, and I know that doesn't add up to 100%, but 51% saying really don't care. And funnily enough, I have a feeling that might be quite representative of the larger gaming community, not just the DGP one. So yeah, I had nothing specific to add. Yeah, Apteryx, I think just to kind of summarize, given where the content's going at the minute, you know, and the lack of stuff that they'll have because the focus is allegedly on stability and quality of life improvements, I think it only makes sense that it's going that way. A shorter one makes sense. Digital makes sense. We don't think there's anything more you can read into it, and that's the financial part. That it doesn't appear to be financial. Okay, we're basing it on 2023 because that's the latest report that we have. It came out a couple of days ago. But, you know, it seems to be a common sense decision. And, you know, I guess maybe pocket a little bit of the cash that they would be using elsewhere and have maybe a Squadron 42 launch event next year, if that is not at Citizencon. So, yeah, I think most of the referral network will be better since, yeah, the current one is kind of bad. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so hopefully that's been a useful stream for you guys. Like I said, this video that I've just shared to you, I was up all night doing this. So I went to bed at about 10 o'clock this morning, hanging out of my backside, very, very tired. I'm just going to go now and dribble in front of the computer until I fall asleep. But yeah, it's been great to see you all. Thank you very much for coming in. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. No, oh no, I've got the music on. Get the music, get the music. Let's do that again. Should we try that again? Should we try it again? Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Oh no, it's all gone wrong. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.